Audi Ultra, the strategy is applied throughout the vehicle, but the most obvious example to share with your customers is the aluminum hood right here. So again, saving, maybe you remember how much weight it saves? 20 pounds, right? So 20 pounds, better fuel economy, better emissions, better handling, better performance. Okay. Let's see, what else do we have here? In addition, we talked about the LED daytime running lights. Now, during the show, we'll actually have those on. So each Audi was going to have, the idea is that it has its own signature LED strip. So when you see it coming, number one, you know it's an Audi by the LEDs. And number two, you can tell which Audi it is based on the signature, the use of that LED strip, optic fiber. Driver assistance, we have a lot of driver assistance. The most obvious one to point out at the front is your adaptive cruise control sensor right down here. So the radar sensor being right here. Sporty and efficient engines, we talked about 2 engine offerings in gasoline, 1.8, 2 liter, combining direct injection and turbocharging. Your opportunity to talk about that up here, and allude to the fact that we're going to have a diesel offering later next year. In addition to that, 6-speed S-tronic dual clutch transmission. So your opportunity to point out the fact that it's both a very efficient transmission, but also a very high performance transmission. Okay. So as we move around to the side, again, you can pick your battles. There's lots of points to talk about, or you can pick your points. But when you see it, the stance of the vehicle and the wheels at the side, we think of the side, and perhaps if you did before training, you'll remember this. We would think of the side as a great spot to talk about Quattro, because you can imagine the stability of the vehicle. So Quattro, permanent all-wheel drive, of course, which gives us better acceleration, better lateral stability. Available with 19-inch rims. So with the S-Line Sport package, you get the 19-inch rims with that Sport Tune suspension. The Tornado line. So the Tornado line that picks up, you pick it up right from the edge of the headlamp here, and it actually, you can follow that all the way around nice seamlessly into the tail lamps as well, wraps around the vehicle seamlessly, and it's a signature element of all Audis. The broad shoulders, muscular shoulders, similar to the TT and the R8 that accommodate the exterior here. A7 is another example. The powerful, the really flared fenders, which add to sporty, accentuate the wide track of the vehicle, and this little indentation, which is unique only to the A3 sedan, which we're referring to as a swag line, draws the attention to those flared arches just a little bit more. As we move along to the rear here, there's a couple of things that we can point out. First of all, the laid down rear glass, so that aggressive break on the seat pillar to give it that coupe-like roof line, nice flowing contours on the inside, the same elbow room, shoulder room, knee room as the Sportback derivative of the same vehicle, and so lots of room for passengers. Of course, there's 40-60 split seats or a rear pass-through. While it's not a Sportback, it still has lots of functionality in terms of the potential of the vehicle. The vehicle length as well, so just under 15 centimeters longer than the Sportback, so very comfortable rear seating. Let's move on to the back. Let's keep on going. So on the 7-point walk-around, we usually start by looking at the rear, and one of the first things that we can talk about is safety as a body motor. Ultrasonic sensors, so the rear parking system. In addition, this one has the rear view camera as well, so to give us a little bit of peace of mind, obviously projected through that 7-inch screen on the inside. The rear lights. So while we don't get the other versions, so we wouldn't contrast it, it is worth pointing out it's narrower and wider than on any other A3 derivative to again accentuate that wide track, but the two-piece also allows us to have a nice wide opening for the trunk. So it's a low lift over height, and it's nice and wide, which is again a competitive comparison, a competitive advantage over the over the CLA. Let's see what else we can talk about. Actually, while we're back here, again, all of the A3s come with a standard twin tailpipe at the left. If you get Sport S-Line, then you do get the chrome-plated tips on there as well. Let's just close this for a second because I didn't quite finish my discussion at the rear before going into the trunk. This is the separating edge we were talking about before, so that runs along here. So depending on how the light is shining on it, it actually casts a shadow below that. And what that does is, again, it flattens and widens the vehicle, but it also incorporated into the spoiler lip, which adds another sporty element to the vehicle. Okay, good. You can also notice that this tornado line that we talked about wrapping around, again, you can follow that line all the way around, going up in the tornado line on the other side. So let's see. We talked about the two-piece rear lights, the self-opening luggage compartment, so just a one touch and it opens. Rather than do that for your customers, get them to press the button, let them open it, and engage kinesthetically with the vehicle. And on the inside, does anybody remember what the luggage capacity was on the inside? 425. Does anybody remember what the luggage capacity on the outgoing Sportback was? The seats up. 370. Maybe you wanted to really push hard on that. Okay, let's move around this side, guys. Now, if you haven't already talked about Quattro on that side, then this is quickly another opportunity to bring up Quattro. Now, in addition, advanced safety systems, driver assistance, side assist. If you haven't spoken about that yet, you have an opportunity to touch that here. Of course, it will flash, and if you put your turn indicator on, it'll actually vibrate the wheel, try to wake you up. Active lane assist as well. A function of the electromechanical steering will steer the vehicle back into its lane, not just vibrate the wheel, but actually rotate the wheel back into the lane. Of course, you can overcome that, but it's a very useful system and totally a function of the introduction of electromechanical steering to the A3. What can you talk about at the side? You haven't talked about the dynamic line yet. It's a design-motivated person. Again, dynamic line starting at the sills, climbing up towards the rear. What was Danny Duran's inspiration for that dynamic line? Yeah, Wave picking up a surfer and pushing him forward. I'm going to hand these out to you. It says magnetic ride suspension. No, ignore that. That was a mistake on my part. That was it's in the S3, not the A3. Safety perspective. It has a brake assist follow-up collision limit. It's kind of a wordy term, but if the vehicle is actually in an accident, what it'll do is it'll automatically put the brake, lock the brakes on after the fact, so the vehicle doesn't roll back into traffic. So, convenience key, also a great thing to talk about from the side perspective. If you haven't already, it's a great segue into getting the customer into the vehicle. Is why don't you hold on to this key? Perfect. Put it in there and get them inside the vehicle using the convenience key. Okay. So the last step is moving up into the inside of the vehicle, and here there's a lot of things to talk about. And I'm definitely not going to hit all of them. But from a design perspective, we talk about the three-dimensional inlay, the wraparound curve, the clean and uncluttered look by removing that center stack. From a technology perspective, we talk about MIB, the new infotainment platform, the MMI touch wheel, the introduction of E&O into the A3 for the first time, unique interior lighting package. Let's see, from a safety perspective, another opportunity to talk about Presense Basic, other technologies such as adaptive cruise control, stop and go. There's lots of great things to talk about, but the overarching message is that even though it's a segment, it's still it's an Audi in every regard in terms of its fit and finish, its build quality materials. It's on par with what it needs to be in the luxury class, but it sets the standard in this segment. What I'll do is I think I'll leave it there. Spot and diffuse air vents, try those are really cool. I'll leave it there for now.